Ahoy, welcome back to Task Force Admiral. My name is Ty. We are playing the demo, which is available on Steam for a limited time. Make sure you check it out. We've already completed the single scenario in the Coral Sea, where we beat the Japanese before breakfast. But today, we're going to balance the odds a little bit, going into the single scenario generator and see what we can come up with. The demo has this fancy little battle generator that lets you change a few options to set up a battle how you see fit. Today we're going to take out 2 CVs, and as you can see here, when you change the settings, the briefing changes. That's a nice little touch, and it reminds me of a game that I used to play, Chuck Yeager's Air Combat. And their single generator, every time you change something, it would change the journal of the pilot. I was jumped at 7,000 feet by 15 MiG-15s, etc. So today we are going to have as much randomness as possible, because when I know what's going to happen, when I know where the enemy are, it sort of shapes my strategy. Today I want to be a little bit more reactive and look at the standard operating procedure for a carrier fleet. One thing is for certain: when you're out on the open ocean, you don't know a lot, and the things you do know, the intelligence is pretty old. So we are going to not know much. And we could possibly have 3 enemy carriers, we could have 1, we could have 2. I am going to set the friendly air skill as elite, because I want to test exactly how effective the dive bombers would be based on the crew skill. The accuracy wasn't great in the Battle of the Coral Sea. But yeah, I'm going to set the enemy air skill at average, and wind at random, cloud cover at random, enemy forces all random, the direction of attack also random. Our squadrons will be highly trained and have demonstrated their capabilities over the last few months. Their readiness and proven performance leave no doubt they will meet the challenge head on. Not only will they fulfill their expectations, they may well exceed them. We have access to 2 lots of 24 F4F fighters, 2 lots of 40 SBD dive bombers, 2 lots of 15 Avenger torpedo bombers, and yeah, that's about it. Everything is changing. And we won't have a lot of night time either, so we won't be able to split our fleet up and go looking for the enemy, because we really risk leaving our carriers exposed. So the surface fleet will stick to their jobs, but we will find the enemy, destroy the enemy carrier group, and ensure that they do not inflict damage on our own forces. We're expected to retire by the end of the day and maintain discipline, stay focused, and prioritize the mission's success within the given time frame. The scenario will end at 10 PM on day 1, and then its score will be calculated. So it will be a lot of night time towards the end, and that would just give us time to get any late arriving strike packages back home. If you like what you see, hit the like button, hit subscribe, because we will cover this game extensively on release. So the one thing that we do know is that we don't know anything. And to keep our knowledge up, we need to have some eyes out there, aside from our fighters. So what I'm going to do is set up a formation that will use our destroyers as radar pickets. It does leave us a little bit exposed close range, because the destroyers will be far apart. They won't be able to concentrate their firepower on any air attacks. But as long as they have the radar, the search radar they do here, then we should be able to extend the eyes and ears of our fleet without having to use our pilots to do so. We can get probably another 20% or more radar coverage by having our destroyers at maximum range. I had considered putting the destroyers in 2 lines, but I couldn't get them in the formation that I want them in. I would like them sort of at the 2 and 7 o'clock region, but they won't do it. So we will just have the solid line, and I will bring the cruisers out a little bit, and depending on where the threat presents itself or how intense the threat is, I might bring the cruisers back in close. We'll see. The mission starts at 5 AM, so we have 1 hour to work with. The next job should be to set up a scouting ring. We want to set out a 360-degree coverage. Have a look at the weather here. Weather and wind direction. Wind is blowing from the northeast, and cloud cover is pretty sparse. So we will set up to be in position to launch at 6 o'clock, making a starboard turn towards that northeasterly direction at 6 o'clock for first launch. Once the launches are finished at about 6:45, we will then turn to port and head on that direction till 7:30 or so, depending on what we decide to do with our operations today. Now, there are two things you could do. You can either set up your combat air patrol first, or you could send out your scouts first. It's all a battle. Despite the length of time the battle takes, minutes can be life or death. And so I would like to have the initiative on the Japanese this morning, and we are going to launch a 360-degree coverage of scout planes, then the combat air patrols. I plan on having a pretty thick and durable combat air patrol, because if the Japanese have 3 carriers, we will be in some deep shit, to put it bluntly. So the combat air patrol needs to be overly cautious to keep the prize, our carriers, safe. Setting up the search ring here. It's going to be 180-degree search ring with 10 aircraft. So they should be able to get a fair amount of coverage, range out to 600 kilometers. Lexington will send 10 aircraft to north in that sector. And then we will set up Lexington on the other direction. I don't know. Each carrier will take either a north or south coverage zone. And then their combat air patrols will mimic which side they're covering. So then we have someone to blame if anyone gets through. It's all about accountability. Sending out the search ring to 600 kilometers. I think that's generous enough. If the Japanese are outside of that, then we seriously have some time to work with. And we want 10 aircraft, I believe, to get that dense coverage. And there might be some overlap on their way back. We'll see. Alright, so Lexington's got the north. Yorktown will have the south. We'll mimic that, 600 kilometers. Trying to get them to launch at 5:30 to see if we can get some planes in the sky before dawn. If we can just have them readied up, ready to go off the deck at 6 o'clock, I'll be happy. But we'll try for 5:30. And we have enough here. That's 10 aircraft. 18 degrees of separation. I am considering lowering the amount of aircraft, but 10 does seem like a good number. It's not going to dent our dive bomber force too much. We're sending out 25% of the force as scouts. Try for 5:30. Alright, that should look pretty cool once all those scout aircraft launch. And if there's anything out there, we will find it. Oop, that should have been 10. There we go. That will leave us, I believe, 30 dive bombers aboard each ship. If I remember the briefing correctly. And we also have to keep in mind that it's going to take about 2.5 hours for them to do this search mission. So we need to be where we say we're going to be. But an evolving situation may force our hand, and those scout aircraft will need enough fuel to find us. So that's why we don't want to send out a max range. That is a decent search grid. We should find anything we need to find. Deck operations have not yet started. Bit of a change of pace compared to our last mission. We already had the activity flurrying on the deck at 5:15. We launched everything at dawn. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. It was a lot of fun to make. We managed to beat them by 11 o'clock, I think. Like, that was game over, man. Next task is we have 20 minutes to plan our combat air patrol, and it's going to be quite extensive, as mentioned before. I want to have them a fair distance away from the ship, but they will still have lots of radar coverage to help them vector towards the threat before it gets past them. So that's why we put out the radar pickets out as far as we can without separating them from the fleet. I haven't decided on numbers yet, but we're going to have 6 zones. So 4 outer zones and then a fallback zone. So they'll be like the torpedo guard, torpedo plane guard. I believe historically they used the SBD as a torpedo guard in last ditch moments because it was, capable enough to hit a slow moving torpedo bomber. I don't want to make the areas too large, so there will be 4 corridors into our safety net, or through our safety net. But then the 2 inner zones will cover that. Looking good, looking good. As mentioned before, Lexington and Yorktown each have their own sector. Lexington will have north and east zones. Yorktown will have south and west zones. The outer zones will be at 15,000 feet. The inner zone will be about 10,000 feet. So you have a high and a low guard. That way you can react to whichever altitude the enemy are coming from. You do ultimately want to have more altitude than the enemy, but it does make it harder to see them. Okay, those are set up as best as I can. And we're going to go with 3 aircraft on the outer perimeter, each zone, and then 2 aircraft on the inner perimeter. And we will then have, I believe, 8 aircraft left over to assist with escort duty or scrambling in emergencies, as well as to replace any losses to combat air patrol. But this is a number that we're going to stick with for now. And we just roll with the situation as it presents itself. Right, 10,000 feet. 15. The combat air patrol will take an hour and a half, 90-minute flights. So once they are up, that will give us until 7:30 before we have to start recovery and launch operations for the replacements. Launch the replacements first, recover second. And then we have another hour and a half, 9 o'clock, before we have to do it again. So that gives us a little bit of time to send strike packages in between our cap rotation. The fleet's moving into position slowly. And the sun is rising here on the Coral Sea. What kind of mischief can we get up to today? Deck operations will commence very shortly. Spotting shouldn't take long. We've got 10 SBDs flying out per carrier, then the combat air patrols will start. Spotting starts in less than 2 minutes. Launch at 6:01. Then the combat air patrols will start launching at 6:06. Not bad. Let's see if we can run to time. All the combat air patrols will be up and launched. And then we've got recovery happening at 7:30. Okay, we can deal with that. We need to make sure we give ourselves time to prepare for strikes. We don't want to have to try and rotate combat air patrol in the middle of a strike package. It's a lot of information to take in. but thoroughly enjoying this little slice of what's to come. Alright, we're headed into the wind. That's part of our plot, so we're not changing course to launch. And then we need to start recovery at 7:30. So we'll arrive at our second waypoint at 7:17, and then we can turn up to north towards the wind if it's still blowing that way. We have a bit more cloud cover than when we first started. Combat air patrols zones are all set. I'm pretty happy with those. But I might move them out. Because we have a fairly big radar bubble at the moment. Push this one out here, and then I might adjust our inner zones there to make sure that the corridors aren't too wide. Anything that can get in there, we can just vector them towards it. But ultimately, you don't want aircraft to have to travel too far to intercept. And as soon as we detect the enemy, we can shift our combat air patrol to mainly cover the axis of approach. But for now, we have to cover every base. We don't want that inner zone too far away either. They are our last ditch defense. I mean, if the raid is big enough, I will just vector everyone to go and intercept. And ideally, I'd like to spot them well before, so we have plenty of time to fight. Yorktown is preparing. We've got the SBDs, then the Wildcats. Just need to extend this out to make sure that we arrive at the collection point for our search team. Try to remain unpredictable in our course too. The search team will actually be away till 9:30, so it's going to be a very long mission for them, and they will be running on gas when they get home. Gas as in fumes. I have to shuffle and weave those Wildcats through the center because of my unorthodox tactics of launching scouts first when the fighters were already sitting on the deck. I did try to see if the cruisers could launch a scout plane, but I couldn't figure that out. Now, all of you wonderful viewers who told me how to attach the camera to an aircraft, thank you very much. Because I think we're in for a treat today, as the first of our scout planes embark on their journey to find the enemy and hopefully make it home. And if they do find the enemy, hopefully they don't get picked on too much. The scout's job is kind of a double-edged sword. You either see no action, or you see enough action to not go home. Or When you get home hours later, your home isn't there anymore. They've certainly nailed the aesthetics. The hype is real. First of our scout planes heading off towards the rising sun. The good one, that is. Not the one that wants to kill them. Alright, let's move this up here. And we should get there around the same time as our scouts return. Barring calamity. 9:40 on the dot. They'll arrive back at about 10 o'clock. Having a look at the total search pattern, you can see that on the return journey, we do cover a lot of the sea. So, if there's something out there to find, we should be able to find it. Combat air patrols are away. First patrol of the day should be pretty quiet. You might run into a scout or two. Of course, we are not counting any land-based aircraft, which can fly at 24/7. Wonderful sights. We're not here to sightsee. There's that pattern I was talking about. Beautiful. We shall find them. Back to adjusting my combat air patrol zones. I'm feeling quite paranoid. We have a 33% chance of running into 3 carriers, which will have the opportunity to overwhelm us if given the chance. So pushed out that combat air patrol just a little bit longer, a little bit further. And we still have the 8 aircraft in reserve on each carrier. So we can set up another full combat air patrol if we need to from each carrier. No sign of the enemy yet. The last of our combat air patrols are up away. Our scout planes are now leaving the safety of our radar screen. Combat air patrols are at altitude. We do have a lot of cloud cover to contend with. I might have to lower the altitude. Destroyer's out here on his lonely station. Ever vigilant on the radar scope. And now it's just a waiting game. We just need to be ready. The calm before the storm. I'm tempted to hit time compression, but last time that happened I lost the Chester. So we're just sitting here for the long haul. Of course I'll edit it for you. Contact at 6:51 AM. Bearing 155, range 345. There she is. What have we got here? One ship. Must have better eyes than me because I cannot see it. Should be under the starboard wing of that aircraft and the port wing of the other aircraft, but I cannot find them. Yeah, this is our group. Yeah, this is our group. We found him. We found him. That scout plane is passing very close, so we're going to have a pretty good read on what they are. We still cannot visualize them in game. And then they appeared. Miyoko class cruisers ×2. Guarding a solitary flat top. We may be in for a lucky day, my friends. There is no sign of a second or third flat top. I really hope they aren't in a separate fleet somewhere. But I think we got the lucky RNG, and the random settings served us up one Japanese carrier. Let's plot their course. They are traveling at 26 knots. 26 knots in that direction. In 1 hour's time, that's where they will be. Assuming they don't change course once they detect our scout plane, because they've got to. He's so close to them. And we've got to set up an attack. It's just going to be a light attack, just to feel them out. We're going to send an escort of 2 Wildcats, and we'll send VB2 from the Lexington. We will pick the target. I've messed that up. I have to change the target. It's selected. That's it. We had coordinates instead of the contact. Let's green light that. Normal departure, standard time, just a standard attack. 8 dive bombers from each carrier, plus an escort of 2. That's 1 fighter per 4 bombers. Now that we know where they are, we're going to adjust our combat air patrol ASAP. We're not going to limit the strength because I don't want the Japanese to do any damage to us at all today. So whatever he can send at us, we're going to stop. Alright, same numbers of aircraft, same amount of zones, but just overlapping zones. And we're not going to worry about a torpedo guard. We're just going to have everybody on that southern axis. That means that if they intercept, we'll be intercepting 3 at a time. But that also means that the early interceptors will tangle with any zeros. And then when the second wave and the third wave of interceptors arrive, they'll be able to focus on the bombers. Well, that's my theory. We'll see if the game plays out that way. It puts our early interceptors at risk, but I prefer the distraction over the force. I think the distraction will work better. We'll see. Right, we still need to keep heading north. We need to make sure we're there for our scout planes. But as we keep launching aircraft, it's going to delay us. So if I give us a generously low speed, I can increase speed to still make time. Okay, the strike packages are getting ready. The scout plane's still out, searching. Oh, we've got a scout plane tangled with zeros. Just one. That gunner's got his... Oh, we've got a second one loitering up high. No doubt waiting. Yep. Oh, we're going for the reversal here. Can he pull it off? SPD, almost able to take out the zero if he had just burst fired. No doubt that other fellow will jump in on him now. There she is. I really hope you can make it home, boys. But having to tangle with 2 zeros is not a good day. He's wiggling that rudder, trying to get away, jinking hard. But having the second zero there to follow up is just gonna seal their fate, unfortunately. We can't afford to watch. We have a contact. So we need to vector an interceptor out there. I'm going to do that manually, just to show you how. Defensive air ops. They're not in our screen yet. They're a fair distance away. Fighter direction. Alright, we have one interceptor on the far side of the map being scrambled, but we have a closer one here, so we need to make sure that Cap 205 heads there first. We're going to intercept all.
Romeo, Black Leader, Bogey,
We're not messing around today, and I kind of want that northern force to shuffle down south anyway, so this will be the best way to do that.
20 miles. Angels 10 plus. Romeo, Green Leader, Bogey, Vector 200. 20 miles. Bogey, Vector 200. 20 miles. Angels 10 plus. Romeo.
A dive bomber is down, unfortunately.
20 miles.
Let's return the favor here. It is a Japanese scout plane. And our Wildcats are on the case. 10,000 feet. Looking for a single target. There she is. Rolling in on her now. Can the Wildcat take her in one burst? Oh, he might overshoot here. He's going to overshoot. Yeah, he's going to overshoot real close. Coming in from his second pass from below. No machine gun solution. He's left himself exposed to the gunner now. And he's going to roll under. Wise move. Can the wingmen have a go? The other interceptors have arrived. Fire! Just can't get that heavy Wildcat around. Scout is proving to be a nuisance. We can't afford to keep watching that, unfortunately, guys. We're going to have to move back to our operations here. We have takeoffs commencing very shortly. Next few minutes or so. Where are our dive bombers? Oh, they're already off. Okay, fair enough. It took some time for it to update. I thought they were still on deck. Alright, the first strike of the day is fairly light, but we're only dealing with one carrier. So if we can get a few hits here, we might put him out of commission for an hour or so, which is enough for us to send the rest of the package, which is what we're planning now. The next package will be 8 o'clock. Let's go 8 o'clock so we can fit into that slot there just before we recover our cap fighters at 9 o'clock. We're going to early spot these guys, have them ready on the deck, because the solution we have on the enemy carrier is getting old. He has detected our scouts, so he may maneuver, and he will need to turn to the north to launch aircraft. So I'm not going to set their target just yet, but I will get them ready. Or we can set the target actually. Pick the target, and you can change it before you launch. But don't set them to normal spotting if you want to do it this way. We can green light the mission, but we won't yet. We'll set up the other strike as well from the other carrier. We want to set this one from Yorktown. Same package, 12 plus 2 escorts. 3 escorts rather. That will leave us 3 on board for our third strike package, which will be primarily torpedo bombers. And the takeoff time will need to be at 8 o'clock, yeah. We need to get off before our combat air patrols return. Otherwise, we have to shuffle the deck back and forward, and you don't want to waste that time. We're going to defer that departure so they all travel together. And once our first strike package arrives, we'll have an updated solution on where the convoy is. And I will set up the attack, but we can change it. So that way, if we see a raid, I can just launch them and they can just try and find the carrier themselves. But I do want them to have the latest intel when they leave the deck. And these guys are going to go at 8:15, deferred departure, and these are going to be our torpedo bombers, the third attack of the day. These guys are going no matter what. These guys are going based on the current information, but they are leaving later. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I know the Japanese have to turn north to launch. So, if I send my torpedo bombers to where they were going to be, we're probably going to fly over their heads. They don't have many options unless they decide just to run, which they won't do. So let's just launch them at 8:15 or whenever they can, which is 8:20. And come what may. But this first strike package will really define the day for us. They are going to find them, and they're going to really let us get accurate information for our second strike package, and the third strike package is just mop-up operation. I am pretty certain that we'll be able to overwhelm the enemy cap because they only have one carrier. And we took a while to shoot down that scout, so I have to assume that he saw me. We did intercept him at over 50,000 yards, but I don't know what his detection range is like. So I have to assume I've been spotted. And so that means I need to up the aggression. So everyone's going at some point before 8 o'clock, or before 9 o'clock. So Naval Strike 18, Naval Strike 17 will go first. 19 and 20 are our torpedo bombers. I'm hoping he comes north because the torpedo bombers have a shorter range, I believe. Well, we've just about done all the hard work. The only thing we can do now is wait and react to what the enemy decides to do themselves. But I feel like we're pretty well prepared, especially against a single carrier. Our combat air patrols should be able to mop up, and they're all shifting south now. We have that one last flight at the north, but when the rotation happens, they will then move to the south. Now these guys still have a bit of flying to do, but they're in a beautiful formation, and they have their top cover as well. So keep your eyes peeled, boys. It's only a matter of time until the Japanese show their faces. Now, if you've made it this far, make sure you give me a like down below, because I can tell you like it. You've got to. What's not to like? I've got goosebumps every time I hear those engines. The rotation is now commencing. Second mission of Combat Air Patrol for the day. We'll launch those off and then recover the first mission. Yeah, we've got about 8 minutes until they return. And that will take some time. Our boys must be nearing their destination soon. We've got the time compression on. And we have detected them, bearing 168, range 342. There they are. As predicted, heading on a northerly track with the wind. No doubt they've launched something, or are in the process of launching them. We are about 6 minutes away from dropping some eggs on their head. And we're going to confirm those guys as the contact for our second wave of strike packages. Those guys will be marshalling up on the runway as soon as possible. We just have to recover our combat air patrol first. And that's happening as we speak. Alright, this is it. All the planning, the searching, the sacrificing. We've lost a scout today. We need 2. get revenge. We need to show the Japanese that we're not to be trifled with. And the only thing more powerful than the US Navy is the US Navy when it's commanded by an Australian. We're off. They're heading north, 22 knots. That's where they'll be at 9 a.m. Japanese, come out to play. Where are they? You guys ready? Remember, near vertical dive. Stay with your buddy. If you lose sight of your wingman, you failed your mission. Keep an eye out for combat air patrols. There are no sign of enemy aircraft at the moment. And we've spotted them. Right there in the center of the screen, just a tiny blip. But we have our first sighting. Wildcats are still overwatch. I think we might be able to get in there. Where are the Japanese? I know they turned to the north, so they must have launched something. Here we go. More than 80 miles? Angel's medium. That's a long way away. Did we just detect... I think our...
Romeo, enemy snooper. Vector 190. More than 80 miles. Angel's medium. Romeo, orange leader, enemy snooper. Vector 190.
Yeah, we're just scrambling everyone to that. We're not. The FDO said no, everyone needs to go and intercept that. So we have a raid on the way, but it was spotted, I think, by our SBDs. It was. What? It was detected by the DD. How? Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was the SBDs that detected that. They must have flown past each other. But the FDO deemed it serious enough to scramble all of our cap fighters 80 miles away, rather than fight them very close. It says there's 20 plus aircraft, so they may have launched a full package. Is that a 0? Yes, it's a 0 on your 6, my friend. You're being jumped. Gunner's opened up. There he goes. Oh, you bastard. Where are the Wildcats? We only have 2. There he is. We just need those escort fighters to tangle up those zeros long enough for them to descend and drop their bombs. Alright, they're turning in. Where is the flat top? Where is our top cover? He's coming back. Hold on, boys. It's going to be a rough ride. Oh, there's the Wildcat. He's on his tail, but this 0 really wants to take down the flight lead. Get him! He can't open fire because it would be friendly fire. He's trying. We've taken damage. Wildcat's giving chase. Go, son. Go! Get him! The other flight is making their attack run. Oh, we've had contact. 2 contacts! Oh, massive explosion. Shokaku. Deck ablaze, and there are still more to come. I balked the camera then. Let's just have a look at this guy. Again, we missed the explosion. There they are. More contacts on the deck. That is a serious blaze. And these guys need to get the hell out of here. Alright, the second wave of our initial strike package. Another 8 SBDs inbound. They managed to get away from that 0. Shukaku is burning harder than I've ever seen a ship burn. All those aircraft on the flight deck at serious risk. And the SBDs are finishing off. The last 3, more destruction on deck. And I dare say that their elite training somewhat increased the accuracy. Wouldn't you? Wow. They are not taking off from that ship today. If ever again. And now our second raid will have free reign. There is no way they can put that fire out before the second wave arrives. Apart from some superficial damage, I think our flight came out of that unscathed. Wildcats are okay. We've still got some AA fire coming from the carrier, but good luck with that. Something splashed down. It might have been a 0. Yeah, there's a Wildcat there, so it must have been a 0. Good job. Not that he would have anywhere to land anyway. Second wave of the strike package is still readying up, but they will be going very shortly. Meanwhile, we have our interception, and they have a long way to go. And here is the subject of our FDO's concern. A large mass moving towards us. The Cap fighters are on the prowl. At the start of the mission, I did say that if this interception ever happened, then we would have a few arriving at a time and we wouldn't arrive as a solid force. So our initial arrivals... Oh, we've got a head-on here. Our initial arrivals are at real risk. Depending on the 0. Is there any 0s with this formation of dive bombers and torpedo bombers? We will have to find out. But it looks like we're coming around for a second pass, catching up after that head-on. And this is not a good place to be. Despite having a fairly weak secondary armament, these B5s can be potent when they're in a formation like this. And it looks like one of our Wildcats has taken critical damage, perhaps? Was that one of the Wildcats? We've got an oil leak. Yeah, that's a good choice. Pull up. You want to come at an unpredictable angle, guys. The rest of our interceptors are still on their way. Second, third pass. We did lose Hellcat. Someone ditched. But we need to make sure everybody's heading there. I can't see. See, it's so far away that we can't see where the planes are in the air defense screen. That is a very long range intercept. Coming in for a slashing attack. Don't fall into that trap. Don't sit on the tail. Don't do it. No, don't do it. You can try and chop his wing off, that's a good idea. But now you've taken radiator damage. Good on you, mate. Come on, Carson, do it. You can do it, Carson. Oh, he just ran through that guy. No damage. Add collision models, please. That would be hilarious. We have a lot of aircraft falling from the sky, and I can't tell if they're ours. I know we've lost 1 or 2. We have significant airspeed here. That's the way to do it. Nice contact there. Splash 1. He's going for a second helping. Gonna have a few aces in a day, I think. think it's pretty even. We have a couple of losses. The Japanese gunners are actually doing a good job. Just goes to show that a bomber force can put up a little bit of self-defense in enough numbers. They will fight back. I think we're chasing a Zero here. He's burning up. Second plane burning up. Third aircraft down. Yeah, we're really cleaning up now. Wildcat. Nice rugged aircraft. More burning. Oof. Thought he took a hit to the prop then. Well, now back to the silence after the roar of the engines. But we still have them moving. And we are almost ready to launch. Spotted. Yep, we're ready to launch. Second wave can go. It's going to take some time for them to get there, and our enemy may not still be there. These guys were waiting for about 5 minutes for my order. We've given the takeoff order. They should leave any second. He's our ditched out pilot. We have no way of saving him. Only a few aircraft remain. Another one. Lucky shot, must have been. Got a Zero chasing a Wildcat, chasing a Zero, chasing a Wildcat. Circle of life. You gotta save your wingman. Let's get everybody off the ship. Come on. I would love to take down a cruiser or two. I'm not sure what the state the flat top will be in. But our combat air patrol managed to completely obliterate this raid. About 80 miles from the carrier. That's how you want to do it. You don't want them anywhere near you. If your combat air patrol is finding them at the same time your ships are, I think you failed. And it's a third of our Wildcats to ditch. Let's watch this landing. That would be a scary, scary thought. The middle of the Pacific, or the Coral Sea. You know you're 80 miles from the nearest ship, and the ship is traveling in the opposite direction. And that perfect timing sees the last of our dive bombers go, the last of our torpedo bombers go in wave 3. I don't think they're going to have anything to fight, to be honest. These guys are on deferred launch, so they're waiting for their friends. Another splash there. Very satisfying to watch. We're pretty lucky to be able to experience this and not actually have to die. So, keep that in mind. We have another unidentified contact coming in, but I think it's my initial strike team. I think they're coming back. I can't tell. Maybe it's the interceptors. But at the moment, we're not sure what they are. No, it's an enemy! Ooh! That must be the remnants of the raid. Torpedo bombers are almost ready. Give them some time compression. And the final attack for the day, it will commence shortly. Alright, we've been detected by an enemy air search asset. But I don't think it matters, unless they're going to send the cruisers after us. And recovering the combat air patrols. Good job today, boys. And we're not all coming home. And I was right, it was the strike package returning. They're coming back in threes. For whatever reason. Low and slow. Just to let the fleet know that they're friendly. Coming to do a victory pass by the look of it. I paid like $1,000 to go and watch this in real life. Like, and it's pretty similar. Alright, attack number 2 has arrived on station. Follow the leader, the flak has opened up. And the flat top is nowhere to be seen. So we're going to take ourselves some cruisers, I think, today. Yes, we are. And we have a perfect solution here. Running with the bow. Just aim in front of the bow and you'll hit her all day. She's almost a stationary target. Don't know if we've had any hits. Yeah, we had a hit. We had a hit. We've hit her so hard it's blasted the bottom out of her and she's just going down rapidly. Stern first. Trying to take one last gasp. The second lot of the second wave. And what are they diving on? What? Okay. Was that where the Miyoko was? So they just bombed where it was? Wave 3 inbound. Very midway. Torpedo run on this cruiser who is aware. Dive bomb on a destroyer, I think that is. DD, yep. Oh, absolutely smashed her to pieces. Well, I think we had some victory here today. We're going to call back all of our combat air patrols. We don't need them up. Call them in. Recover them all at the same time. We can just spend the rest of the day recovering, I think. Yep. Let's have a look at our missions. Someone's home. The first wave is home, and they are ready to report. So how did we go? We've had some damage, but no losses. We hit with 37 bombs on the CV against 2 CAs, 4 DDs, and 1 CV. 37 bombs from 24 dropped, apparently. So yeah, they got some pretty good accuracy. They hit with more bombs than they dropped. Standard war statistics. Gotta love those bomb hit claims. You get a hit, you get a hit. These guys hit with 42 bombs. Is that how I'm reading it right? Despite only dropping 24. Maybe that's total hits. So now, like I said, we're just going to spend the rest of the day recovering the aircraft, polishing up, having some ice cream, maybe a sneaky bit of rum. But I don't think the Japanese are going to hassle us today. Let's have a look at the totals for our squadrons. VF2, 17 air combat claims for 3 losses. Total of 8 aircraft lost, sorry. That's a fair amount of aircraft lost. Huh? We lost 12 dive bombers. Oh, is that because they're not back yet? Maybe that's why. They haven't reported in, they're late. See, we've got a trail of aircraft still coming in. I think that's what it is. They're MIA until they report in. They're about half an hour late. So that's the end of the day, 6 p.m. No further contact with the Japanese. We are finished here. Let's have a look at the statistics. Strategic draw, tactical victory. Battle went in our favour. Forces struck hard and fast, catching the enemy off guard and forcing them to withdraw. Ships sent to the bottom, aircraft lost. Seasoned crews scattered in the wind. Haha. Let's have a look at the actual statistics. So we destroyed the Miyoko, the Asagumo, the Haguro, heavily damaged Shokaku, 15 Zeros, 15 B5N2s, 15 D3A1s, for the loss of 9 F4s. That sucks. 7 SBDs. A few of them didn't return from their scout mission. A few of them didn't return for whatever reason. Maybe they got lost, had engine trouble, who knows. My name's Commander Tyrael. Tune in next time. Appreciate the watch.